everyone, it's Mindy Egan for Tailored Expressions, and today I'm going to be creating some tags using these simple tags, Timeless Blooms. I'm also going to show you how I turn those tags into a card, and I also have some bonus color inspiration for you. First, let's take a look at the supplies I'm using. I have these simple tags, Timeless Blooms Stencil. I will also be using these simple tags die set and simple tags backer, Delicate Daisy stamp and die, Tweed background, and then I'm also going to be using the True Colors stamp set. The colors of ink that I'll be using is Toffee, Dijon, Rosewater, Papaya. I also have some Royal Icing, Blue Cheese, Sugar Cube, and I'm showing you VersaFine, but I didn't actually use it in the card project. Other products I'm using is my Glassboard Buddy. I have blending brushes. I will also be using my detail blending brushes, a craft pick, reverse tweezers, a large pair and small pair of scissors, plus a paintbrush. I have a repositionable tape. I'll also be using my Scotch tape. I have some Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed proof white ink, chocolate truffle liquid watercolor, a dropper bottle filled with water, a small acrylic block, some white embossing powder, some twine from my stash, Nouveau Deluxe liquid glue, champagne fun foil, and the 6x8.5 shim and carrier sheet, anti-static powder tool, and true color cards for color swatching. For cardstock, I have Sugar Cube, Rosewater, Blue Cheese, Papaya, and Toffee. And not shown but being used is going to be black licorice. I also have the swatch out stencil and the foilet panels for the simple tags Timeless Blooms. Other items not shown is going to be my Teal Misty and my mini Minc machine. I'm going to start by doing some foiling. So I will be using the stencil to color in the images. There's going to be 4 stencils in there, and I'm going to take the foilet panels and I'm picking out one of each design. So one is just going to have the outline of the flowers. The other design is going to be the tags and sentiments. I'm warming up my mini Minc machine by setting it to setting 4, setting off on the side to warm up, and then I'm going to trim my champagne fun foil down to cover the entire panel of one of my foilet panels. So I'm going to buff over the top of my foilet panel with a Swiffer cloth and also the back of my fun foil. This is going to remove any dust that would be getting in the way of my foiling. I'm going to place my foil over the top of the panel so it's pretty side up of the design and also of the foil. I'm placing that inside of my 6x8.5 carrier sheet with the shim, and then I'm going to feed this into the mini Minc machine with the folded side going in first. Once I had that out and gave it time to cool, I could peel and reveal this beautifully foiled design. So this is going to be the outline of all of the flowers. I did do the same process for the other foilet panel, which is giving us the sentiment and also the tag shapes. Then I'm going to move on to doing the ink blending. So I'm going to take some repositionable tape and put it on the back of one of the foilet panels so that it secures it down to my glass work surface. I'm placing the first layer of the stencil over the top, matching up all of the squares that are foiled, and then I'm going to hold the stencil down with some teal tape. I will be using 2 colors of ink for each of the layers of stencils. So I'm starting out with the lightest color out of those. This is going to be Rosewater. I'm applying that color to all of the open areas of the stencil using my standard blending brush. And then I'm going to come in with Papaya ink and a detail blending brush. This is still the first layer of the stencil. I'm adding this darker shade down towards the bottom of each of the flowers and having it fade off so I can still show a little bit of that rosewater on the tip of the petals. I'll then remove the first layer of the stencil, bring in the second layer, lining up all of the squares so that my designs line up perfectly. Again, starting with the first layer, going over the top with Rosewater, so my lightest color first, and then coming in with the detail blending brush and the Papaya ink. One suggestion I have is to stencil this out on just plain sugar cube cardstock to get an idea of how each of the flower petals sit or what direction the flower is actually facing. That's really going to help as a guide when you want to add some contrast to the bottom of each of the flowers, because some of these flowers come in from the top, come in from the bottom, or off on the side. So I do recommend kind of doing a practice run before actually coming to your foiled panels. I then moved on to the third layer of the stencil, filling in the rest of the flowers again with the rosewater ink first, adding that light color. That's going to be a highlight. And then finishing it off with the papaya ink and the detail blending brush. The detail blending brush really allows me to get into some of those tight and small areas to add my contrast and really make the flowers pop and look dimensional. The last layer of the stencil is going to be our leaves, which there's only one layer for the leaves, but again, I'm going to step it up by adding two different colors. I'm starting out with royal icing. So I went with something very unique that was Pinterest inspired. I am adding the royal icing as my highlight color. Once I have that all filled in, I'm going to bring in blue cheese ink, and that's going to be my contrast or my shadow color. Again, using a detailed blending brush to really get into some of those areas and kind of shade around the edge of the leaves. It's a really beautiful color combination that I hope you give a try. Then we can go for the big peel and reveal of that gorgeous color combination paired with the beautiful champagne outline for the sentiments and the tags. Now, I did use some similar colors for the other panel. I did the same rose water and papaya, but this time for the leaves, I decided to change it up. And I went with Dijon as my lightest color, and then the darkest color is Toffee. So here's a look at each of those panels with its true color inspiration card. So this first one was rosewater, papaya, royal icing, and blue cheese. The second foil panel I did is rosewater, papaya, Dijon, and toffee. This next panel I'm showing you is just a mix of both as I was experimenting with colors. And I do have one more that I did off screen without any of the outlines or foil panels. And this one is a very springy one. It's rosewater, dragon fruit, kiwi, and sweet basil. I hope you'll give some of these color combinations a try. I'm going to take my simple tags die and line up the squares of the tags die with the squares on my panels. Once I have those in place, I'm going to hold it down with some teal tape, run that through my die cut machine, and it's going to die cut out four of the tags on that side. So here are those four tags of the different shapes. Then I'm going to take that die, line it up with the other side, hold it down with the teal tape, run it through the die cut machine to die cut out the other four. So you'll get a total of 8 tags in all of these different orientations with the flowers. And then what I did off screen, just to show you some more color combinations, is I used the Simple Tags backer and I paired it with a variety of colors that I use in the ink blending that I did for the stencil. So here I am lining them up and I'm just attaching my tag to the backer using some scotch tape. I did the papaya cardstock. This one is going to be rose water, and I also used some blue cheese. So you can see because I'm pulling from the colors that I used in my ink blending, that they match beautifully, and each one kind of pulls that color out a little bit more. I like to call this tags for days because I have plenty of tags that I can use throughout the year now. I found some twine in my stash, so I cut a little piece and I looped it, and I'm sticking the loop through the hole of the tag. Then I'm going to come through the front, grab the piece in the back to loop that through and add my tag or my string on the top of each of the tags. So it's up to you how long you want your tag to be and how you're going to be attaching it. I left mine fairly long just to make sure that I was giving myself enough room. I also want to show you how you can use these tags on your card projects. So first I'm creating a background. I have some Toffee cardstock and I will be using the Tweed background stamp. I lined up that Tweed background stamp in my MISTI, added repositionable tape to the back of my Toffee cardstock to line it up, and then close the MISTI backwards so that my cardstock is stuck down to the bottom of the MISTI. I'm inking up that stamp set with Toffee ink for a tone-on-tone look. And then I'm going to add some splatters for a little extra interest in the background. Here I mixed a little bit of the bleed proof white with some water and added that to the background. And then off of Heather's inspiration, I am using the chocolate truffle liquid watercolor. The sentiment I'm going to use for the front of my card is off of the Delicate Daisy stamp and die set. I prepped a piece of black licorice cardstock with my anti-static powder tool. I'm inking up the sentiment using Sugar Cube pigment ink, sprinkle on my white embossing powder, and then I will have my heat tool warming up so it's nice and hot when I can come in and melt that embossing powder. Then lined up the coordinating die, held it in place with my teal tape, and ran that through the die cut machine. To help so that my cardstock is not moving around while I'm trying to do placement is I taped my background down with repositionable tape down to my glass work surface. And I did a lot of this trimming of these panels off screen, mainly because it was a lot of just tinkering around with the sizes. I started out by trimming off the tag circle. So where the circle was where you would create it with a tag, I trimmed that off and I kind of went from there, just kind of giving it a little haircut. So when I say haircut, I mean I trimmed a little off here, a little off there until it fit onto the front of my A2 size card panel. Now, I did make sure that I have a foam tape behind them, and then I could just remove the backing and place that on the front of the panel. I did really make sure that I had my margins even going around the outer edge and also the gap between the panels. I tried to make sure it was really even. Then I add my sentiment over the top just using some liquid glue. If you have some postage stamps, I think that would be really pretty to add to some of those panels on the card front. So there's a look at creating your tags with these simple tags, timeless blooms, also how you can turn it into a card project. And I hope you enjoyed the bonus color inspiration that I shared. You can find these products now available over at tailoredexpressions.com.